thank you so much for being here today. Jesus has a word for us today. And the word he has for us is he's saying, stop putting up with things the way they are. Change them. Let's acknowledge him. Jesus, we thank you for helping us, for teaching us, for preparing us to stand before you that day. We're acknowledging your authority today, your word, your instruction. Love you and praise you and give you all the glory. And that's what we need to do. We need to acknowledge what he's saying and put it into practice and believe what he said. Believe that we can do what he said we can do. So he said, don't put up with things the way they are, but change them. Like God did, like Jesus did. God got out in the dark and he said, let there be light. He said it and it was. And we were made in his likeness, so we can do the same thing. Jesus said the same thing. He said, whatever you say to this mountain, whatever you say. I want to read this to you in the Passion Translation. In verse 22, Jesus said, let the faith of God be in you. Let God's faith be in you. And what that is saying is meditate on what God is saying. Because what we really do most time is we meditate on what the enemy is saying. And so then we don't have that faith that we need. Listen to the truth I speak to you. So listen to what he's saying, this truth he's speaking to us. Whoever says to this mountain with great faith and does not doubt, mountain, be lifted up and thrown into the midst of the sea, and believes that what he says will happen, it will be done. This is the reason I urge you boldly, believe for whatever you ask for in prayer. Be convinced that you have received it and it will be yours. So what Jesus is saying is believe that authority that you have. I'm giving you this authority to change your circumstances, to say, mountain, move, and it moves. Change those problems in your life. Stop putting up with what is. It was so awesome when he spoke to me one day when I was encouraging my son to walk, even though he had pain. And he said, tell him to stop saying what is. That was so encouraging. Stop saying what is, because the world would say, you're not treating him right. Don't you feel sorry for him? He was born with a birth defect. And so his whole healing, I had to say what I wanted, not what was. But in the world, we say what is, and so we keep what is. And God is saying, change what is. Change it. I like how the Passion Translation reads Romans. It says that God can raise the dead and call into being things that don't even exist yet. It doesn't even exist yet, but you can bring it into existence. I can bring it into existence by my faith. I was telling you that I had that attack, and I walk every day. And so my faith action was to keep walking. And I always want to say I was by the ocean because that's where my dream is to be. But I was by the lake. And the water and everything that was moving was really making me dizzy and not feel well. And so I did leave. I did listen to the enemy say, wow, things are never going to be the same. You don't have a life anymore. You're never going to be able to feel your leg, and on and on and on. But you know what? I got up the next day and I walked again. And I continued to walk. And it was hard. But I kept walking and I kept walking. And now it's easy. It's wonderful. I can walk again because I'm calling into existence things that aren't, just like God did. And he's calling us to do that, to prepare the way for him. We can't live in our circumstances. We can't go with what is. We have to go with what we say, what faith would say. Before Jesus said this, he cursed fig tree. And I believe he did that on purpose to show the disciples what they can do to teach us that what we say will come to pass. And you hear so many people saying, oh, I got a headache. Oh, I'm this and I'm that. And we're moaning and groaning. And it's because we're hanging out with the enemy. We're meditating on him. We're not having the God kind of faith. We're not having what Jesus said. He said, have faith in God. Have the God kind of faith. He said, let the faith of God be in you. Stop letting the doom and the gloom reside in you. Stop fellowshipping with the enemy, but fellowship with God. Get up every day and hear the word. Get it on the inside of you. Have his kind of faith. Meditate on what he said. He said, listen to the truth that I'm speaking to you. Whoever says to this mountain, the problem, with great faith and does not doubt, mountain, be lifted up and cast into the sea. It'll be done for him. And whoever believes what he says, it'll happen, it'll be done. This is the reason I urge you to boldly believe for whatever you ask for in prayer. Now, there's one condition. And, many people say, well, I spoke and it didn't happen. But, maybe you're not loving. Maybe you're not preferring. Because he said, if you hold anything against anyone, then your Father, whenever you stand praying, if you find that you carry something in your heart against another person, release him, forgive him, so that your Father in heaven will also release you and forgive you. If you will not release forgiveness, don't expect your Father in heaven to release you from your misdeeds. And so it won't work if you don't love. It won't work if you don't love. So whatever you say can happen if you allow it to. If you allow it to, by loving and saying, commanding it to work. And God said that he speaks of non-existent things. He foretold and promised as if they already existed. He spoke as if they already existed. So we are to speak of things as if they already exist. And we can't even speak them, we have to act it. It already exists, right? So, if you're believing that you're healed, you act and you speak as though it's already happened. That's why I was having my son walk. Even though he had pain, teaching him to act as if it already happened. Think of that. Act as if it already happened. Whatever the enemy throws your way, you have authority over him. And Luke 10. Jesus sent out the 70. And when the 70, it says in the Passion Translation, when the 70 missionaries returned to Jesus, they were ecstatic with joy, telling him, Lord, even the demons obeyed us when we commanded them in your name. Jesus said, while you were ministering, I watched Satan topple until he suddenly fell from heaven like lightning to the ground. What that made me think of today is what Jesus said in Matthew 18. He said, whatever you bind on earth is bound in heaven. So whatever you do here is done there. Right? Cool. Now you understand. Now you understand, is what he's saying. That I have imparted to you my authority to trample over his kingdom. You will trample upon every demon before you and overcome every power Satan possesses. Absolutely nothing will harm you as you walk in this authority. So no matter how he attacks you, you have that authority to tell him, no, get down, resist him, bind him. He cannot have authority in your life. I am not going to have this sickness. I am not going to have this disease. Don't let him talk to you. Tell him to shut up and go. So that's the word I have for you today. Jesus is saying, stop letting your circumstances rule you, but change them. I'm giving you this power and this authority. When the 70 went out and came back, he said, now you understand. And we got to get to that place where we're doing it. And he's going to say, now you get it. Now you understand. You have my power and my authority on the inside of you to do my work, to change your circumstances, to change what doesn't even exist yet and act like it does. Talk like it does, act like it does. So remember, Jesus said, whoever says to this mountain, anyone can. Jesus is revealing to us the things that sometimes those like the religious rulers can't understand because they're not listening. They blocked Jesus out. But listen to what he said in Luke 10. Jesus, overflowing with the Holy Spirit, said, Father, thank you, for you are Lord supreme over heaven and earth. You have hidden the great revelation of this authority from those who are proud, those who are in your eyes, wise in their eyes, and you have shared it with those who humble themselves. Yes, Father, this is what pleases your heart, to give these things to those who are trusting children. He's giving you this if you trust him. They trusted him. They went out and did what he said. And they were excited that the demons obeyed them. He's not giving this revelation to the proud. The proud can't understand because they have their opinion. It's what they think. It's about them. And so he's giving us who will humble themselves before him the revelation knowledge they need. We need to go and do his work. That's bottom line. But he wants us to have understanding and change things in our own lives so we have the confidence to go out and believe what Jesus said. Now you get it, right? So that's the word I have for you today. Revelation 3:20, he said, he's knocking on the door of your heart. If you never asked Jesus to come live on the inside of you, he's knocking, he's there, he's asking, can I come in? And he's saying, and I know I'm reiterating, I say this every single time, he's saying, if you obey me, I'm going to live on the inside of you. And the reason I like to say this over and over again is because not everyone is humbling themselves before him and ready to heed his voice. If you don't heed his voice, you're allowing the enemy to have priority in your life. He's the one in control of your life. And he'll come and pretend he's God. And you're going to be thinking you're walking that path, but you're not. If you don't heed the voice of the Lord your God and do what is right in his eyes, you're not going to be blessed. You're not going to have fruit in your life. On that day, he said, not everyone who calls me Lord will enter into the kingdom of heaven, but those who do the will of my Father. And so we have to be doing his will. We have to do his will. Otherwise, it's going to say, I didn't know you. I didn't know you. And so when you heed his voice, you can be sure that he's going to come and live on the inside of you. And then you keep heeding his voice. You look at the word. He is his word, John 1:1. And then you take that word as your authority and you walk in it and you just believe it. Humble yourself like a child and believe it. Let's acknowledge him. Jesus, we thank you. Praise you. And we want to answer that knock. Come and live on the inside of us. We're going to heed your voice. We're going to do your work. We're going to change our circumstances and please you. We're having faith in you. We're having faith in what you said, not what the enemy dictates to us. We're not allowing him. Thank you and praise you and give you all the glory. So if you said that prayer, I'd be so excited that you would let me know. And remember to look at the word and acknowledge God. Acknowledge him. And he will direct your every step. Don't acknowledge the enemy. Don't think you don't have to heed his voice. You do. Whosever voice you heed will be your God. Thank you so much for listening today. God bless you.